Hello everybody, my name is Pravus, and welcome to Secret Government. This is a grand strategy game about manipulating the world from the shadows, pulling the puppet strings as a dark and enigmatic secret brotherhood to accomplish some goal, whatever you might decide that goal is going to be. And we've actually played this game on the channel before when it first went into early access. But since then, Secret Government has gone through a lot of changes, some fundamental mechanics are very different now, and the game is soon going to be released officially as of April 15th. So in honor of that, 1C Entertainment, the publisher, has offered to sponsor this and the next couple of videos so I can show this off for you guys and explore some of the changes. So a big thank you to them for that, and of course, if you would like to learn more, you can always find a link in the description down below. Now, in the early access period, we played with the only mission that was available at the time, the Glorious Revolution, where we tried to ascend Britain to become an empire that will define the shape of humanity. Since then, a new mission has been added for the New World, where the colonial powers in North America are finding some new unrest and another nation wishes to be born. So we can either assist the United States in becoming a reality or crush them under the heel of the British Empire. Up to us. I do want to play with this new content, but before we get into this video, I'm instead going to be playing with the Glorious Revolution again because it functions as a good tutorial, a good primer into the game, and also some of the basic mechanics have changed enough. I think it bears repeating this mission. So we're going to jump back into the Glorious Revolution, and next video, we will try to apply what we've learned in the New World. Brothers, all calculations and prophecies say the days will come that will determine the future of mankind. England is a key point on the map of our time. What would be embodied in it now over the years will sprout all over the world. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, now we're entering the early story of the game, and this is the same as it was in early access, so I'm going to kind of jump through a lot of this. We'll play as this character over here. The gist of it is we are returning to England to find that our brotherhood has been dismantled and destroyed by an unknown foe, a rival brotherhood of some sort. And our mission is not accomplished, whatever that mission might be. We're about to define that a little bit. So we are tasked to become the Grand Master and then lead the Brotherhood back to glory. So let's go ahead and build up some ties. They're going to ask me a few questions about what sets my ideology. I'm going to say that war sometimes can bring good. I'm going to say that anyone who earns their bread can decide what to do with it. And I'm going to say the government is a tool in the service of its citizens. There we go. All right. So now we are Grand Master. It is that simple. And we are going to have Brother Isaiah walk us through some of the base mechanics and UI control, etc. So let's go ahead and zoom in on England and find our first brother, Brother Walter. Walter, as our first and only member of the Brotherhood, is currently one of 6 different masters that rule the Brotherhood, a council of 6, and each different office have different abilities that can assist the Brotherhood as a whole. So we have a worshipful master, we have a porter, a chaplain, a treasurer, a secretary, and an orator. And these guys actually do most of the missions on the direct map themselves. I have the most direct control here. There are 2 additional ranks of brothers below masters. We have adepts, who are members of the Brotherhood who have infiltrated the government and hold some sort of government office, and we have neophytes, who are the lowest level member but can do a lot of local missions for us, which is great. So let's go ahead and click on Walter over here, and we are going to recruit a neophyte, guaranteed to succeed in this particular case, no problem. And let's go ahead and increase time until we can finish said mission. Should only take us a couple of days. Just waiting for the clock. There we go. And done. Now we have a neophyte. So let's go ahead and take a look at Brotherhood Management right here. And this is where we can actually manage all those different offices for the Brotherhood. So in this case, we want to go ahead and place a neophyte as a new master. This guy is poor, which actually tells us some traits about him, and also has military training. We also have health, loyalty, secrecy value, citizenship, nationality, and religion and ideology, and so on. All of these are very important factors for your different agents, and you want to have a good diversity of masters who are able to manipulate people based on their own individual values. Let's suppose I want to recruit somebody. We'll have a much easier time of it if we share their values with our adepts, etc. We'll go into more of that in a little bit, though. For now, I think we'll go ahead and make you into our porter, I guess, since you have some military training, and we'll see how well that does for me. Okay, done. So we get a little bit of extra power. Now, this is the global resource of the game. We have influence, like a government administrative influence. We have wealth, and we have military power. Now, it used to be in this game that what you would do is once you infiltrated the different institutions of a country, their government, their economic and military institutions, and infiltrate this, you'd be able to harvest some power into your global resource. And to an extent, that's still true, but now there are actually some extra steps. Specifically, instead of just having a generic infiltrate administration mission, we have specific government offices. You can see all these right here. All these different characters hold different offices within the government, and each office in the government have different abilities. The way that we infiltrate is by recruiting actual heads of state. Get these guys working for us, and that's how you're going to infiltrate. So let's start with the chief treasurer, because that's what the tutorial wants me to do. You can see that the influence of the economic institution is at 20.51, so we get 20% infiltration by getting this guy recruited. So we're going to go ahead and start by that, and it makes sense since he is the head of the economic institution as the chief treasurer. From here, we could do a few different things. We would be able to spy on him, collect information. We could even assassinate him, or we can recruit him as a brother, and let's try to do that here. Now, because this is the tutorial, we're going to be able to do so guaranteed this time around. There's a 10,000% base chance that we'll be able to succeed in this. Let's go ahead and click on this over here. There we go. So, we are guaranteed to succeed, but do know that there are 3 different ways you can persuade someone to join. You can either make an actual persuasion based on their values, and if you share a lot of their values, they're likely to succeed. You can bribe them, or you can intimidate them. But bribery and intimidation sometimes have negative impacts. You don't really want to resort to these, but at the end of the day, what's most important is getting people to join your brotherhood, even by force. So, persuasion's preferable, but the other 2 are perfectly acceptable. Let's go ahead and persuade the chief treasurer to join. And the tutorial is saying that I need to have my second brother, who has joined here, my new porter, do something as well. So since I know that I have a 10,000% base chance of getting people to join, let's go ahead and recruit the king. I don't see any reason not to. He's guaranteed to join. Let's persuade the king to join. Now, we could actually, once these guys are recruited, make them into masters, but by doing so, they will leave their post. Generally, I don't want to make adepts, members of the government, into my new masters. I'd rather do that with promising neophytes, if at all possible. But there you go. They wear the hood of the brotherhood. That's why it's called a brotherhood. So, they are parts of my brotherhood, and as a result, you can see we have infiltrated the institutions by a pretty large amount. Each of these guys actually will have different abilities associated with them. For the Brotherhood, they could exploit their state posts and start gathering up local resources, local influence, wealth, and power. But these do not go into the global bank, not anymore. We can have lots of local power, and we'll have to use one of our masters to extract or withdraw the resource in order to make it into something global. Or we could take global resources and deposit it locally. That's going to be up to us, but it's important to keep a master around wherever you're banking a lot of your power. In this case, absolutely, it's going to be England. I'm going to go ahead and just recruit a couple of other random people right now. It doesn't really matter too much who, because I already know what the tutorial is going to do. Spoiler alert. All right, good enough, good enough. And yes, now we're going to go for that exploiting of the state post. So let's go ahead and do that here with the Brotherhood. And he is going to start using my my institution infiltration in order to get me power locally. I'm going to set the mission, though, specifically so that his secrecy, which is this little measure right here, if it falls below 70, I want him to automatically stop and not continue doing the mission. And this is because I don't want him to get detected and exposed, because it would be very dangerous, likely to get killed. Because it turns out heads of state don't really like finding out that there's a secret brotherhood that's been controlling them. Of course, we already have the King of England on our side, but that's beside the point. We'll also do the same thing for awareness over here. If the awareness of a nation goes up a certain amount, we'll go ahead and automatically stop just until things cool off a little bit. So that's going to get me some local resources. We'll do the same thing here with the king, I suppose. Why not? Same exact values, and boom. All right, let's go ahead and zoom forward just a little bit because things are about to change. Wait a day, there it is. Oh no, Grand Master, I'm having some worries in England. Let's take a look at the situation. Click. Ah, there it is. There's the awareness I was talking about. And as you conduct missions, whether that be recruitment or exploiting a post, the awareness of the existence of your organization is going to be going up. If this gets too high, it's very dangerous. So we want to keep this low if at all possible. There's also public order over here, which, you know, if there's very high public order, means it will be a little bit easier to infiltrate because people trust their neighbors a bit more. But if we want to destabilize a nation and create civil war, well, maybe reducing public order would be a good thing. Anyway, so we've already attracted too much attention. We're going to cancel these 2 errands because that's what he wants me to do. There we go. And there are other things that we could do to try and reduce that. So if you take a look over here, These guys can also hide signs of activity, and this would reduce the awareness by up to 15. So we can try to run cover for each other as they continue exploiting their post. There are other things they can do, though. So, for example, within the government, we could explore the power structure and learn more about each individual member of the government. We can deliberately sabotage this office and try to get removed from power. Pretty good if you want the ruler to go away in order to force a revolution or something. Compromising officials, expanding influence. We could also try to find a rival brotherhood and smite them. And then lastly, we also have official powers, and this is something new and very important in the game. All these different offices have their own powers. For example, the tax minister. If this guy works for our brotherhood, then we can manipulate the tax rates, the different estates and industries within a country, which is very important if you want to control the economy. The ruler can pose a lot of new laws. We have ministers of trade or industry, the chief justice, the herald for immigration law. We have a cardinal for restrictions on social mobility, and so on and so forth. Lots that you need to do, and getting as many members of the government under your control is not only good for the institution infiltration, but also so you have more options with what to do. And there are so many options on how you can mess with a nation. Lots of interconnecting dynamic variables. It's really overwhelming, and it's difficult to master, but we're going to dive into it, and we're going to try our darndest. All right, what do they want me to do? They want me to get 300 local wealth and power and so on. Well, before we continue, let's go ahead. Oh, I can't recruit more neophytes. Fine. Instead, we're going to go ahead and get some more people and see if we can recruit them. In this case, the cardinal is going to be a little bit difficult to get on my side. We could try to do that using, let's see, using intimidation with my porter. Since he has military training, I think it makes him pretty good. So this guy's a weakling. He's likely to be intimidated. Let's go ahead and try to get the cardinal on my side. Let's also see if we can get... Not going to be easy to get the supreme commander for the military. What about the advisor? The advisor might be able to be intimidated as well. Let's try to get more members of the state under our control, and we'll use them to continue exploiting their position and get me more local influence so we can continue with our mission. Okay, I got a couple more people to join in. I'm going to have a couple of the lower level guys just hide signs of activity and try to run cover for me. You all sit on until we know what we want to do with you. But okay, so now we've exploited a fair bit of local power. Really helps to have the king on your side now, don't it? All right, let's go ahead and click on a master. So we want to withdraw these resources. Let's go ahead and do that from here. So from here, you can increase how much we are withdrawing. Let's suppose I want to withdraw 500 local influence, my local power, from England. We can also extract wealth and power in the exact same way. This does increase awareness, and it does reduce some secrecy, so be somewhat careful about that. But I know that the tutorial is going to ask me to withdraw a fair bit of everything. So let's go ahead and get those a-rolling while we continue to build up all this power because we are just that awesome. Infiltrating governments, I totally understand how to do in this game. I mean, if you're willing to be diligent about it and make sure you have the right masters for the job, oh boy, we can get all sorts of folks under our control. I've infiltrated entire governments at this point. So that's a pretty fun aspect of the game. Let's go to power over here. Let's also withdraw a bit more because we need to have 600 of each resource in our global bank. And while we're waiting, let's see if we can get, let's say, the tax minister, very susceptible to bribes. Let's go ahead and get this guy under our control as well. Okay, that's all the power that I needed. Now, we have to be careful not to push too much awareness, and let's take a look at some missions. So from here, we can see lots of different objectives. In this case, the game wants me to recruit a couple more neophytes and give them titles. Also, to establish a lodge within the country, which is effectively like an HQ. One great thing about lodges is they not only increase your secrecy and ability to move freely within a country, but also detect enemy brotherhoods if they're working, and can give you passive resources in your global bank, depending on the level of infiltration. So setting one up here in England absolutely is going to be the right thing for me to do. Let's wait just a little bit longer because I know Walter wants to go to France, so we'll do this. And Albert wants to go to either the Netherlands or to Denmark. Let's try going to Denmark. Denmark should be fun. So we're just going to move them on the map. It spends a little bit of wealth and sometimes influence and stuff to move them to other countries, but shouldn't be too difficult for us. We are, after all, fabulously wealthy at this point, yes? And once this guy finishes his journey, which sometimes the days take a little bit longer to process, it depends on how many things are going on in the background that this game needs to calculate. But now that we've arrived, let's go ahead and recruit more neophytes. Actually, wait, no, before I do that, I'm sorry, I forgot. Let's go to the government of France. You can see, by the way, we don't know who anybody is in France. We'll have to collect information on them. But let's just say I wanted to recruit the king. Oh, there are complications. What are those complications? Well, your citizenship and your nationality and your religion and such will play a role in how much people are willing to trust you. Having a British Protestant trying to talk to the King of France will make us pretty obvious and not likely to succeed in anything we do. But if we were to locally recruit a neophyte, a French Catholic, for example, they might have a better chance at running some missions here. So this is where having some extra neophytes and some masters of different nationalities can open up quite a few different options for us. So let's go ahead and recruit a couple more neophytes. And I want to give them some master titles as well, so we can move the English back to England where they can move freely, but we'll have a French and a Danish master to work with. Let's go to Brotherhood Management and see what these guys can do. Handsome, good reputation, military training, and a philosopher. This guy's fantastic. We're going to make you into my orator, because the orator can give you extra experience for new neophytes depending on the level of this character. Also, being a philosopher, very good at persuading. Yeah, this is a great trait. You are inconspicuous, and you're educated. Perfect. Let's go for... Let's go for additional... let's go for secrecy reduction. I want to make sure that people don't detect us as much. More awareness reduction should be fine. All right, Albert, you're going to move back over here, and Walter, you're going to move back over here. Okay. So we're moving them back so I can establish a lodge. In the meantime, over here, let's go ahead and recruit another couple of neophytes because having some locals is nice. And I'll show you what they're able to do in just a little bit. Yes, a lot of things are happening in the world right now. Just because it's a tutorial doesn't mean that all the dynamic variables aren't at work. There's a lot happening in the background right now. I'm just focusing on England. But like, who knows? Maybe there's a peasant uprising beginning. Yes, there is, in the Netherlands. What do you know? All right. So now that we are in England, let's take a look over here. And we want to establish the lodge. And with this lodge, right over here, the more we've infiltrated, by the way, the cheaper it is. We will, of course, get that passive income, we'll detect enemy brotherhoods, and so on. So let's go ahead and start building that. That increases the awareness a fair bit, but that's okay. Note, by the way, that the awareness is relatively low right now, and that's because I've been using my lower-level guys pretty successfully to try and run cover for the king and other such advisors to exploit their position and get me a lot of local power. Me likey. You could do something similar, by the way, here with the neophytes. Now, the neophytes also can find resources, not exploit position, but simply find them, so you can get passive income building up here. They also can hide signs of activity, which is pretty nice. One thing I want to do with them, though, is try to explore the structure of power, as long as your secrecy is not below 70. And what we're going to try to do with this guy is see if he automatically gathers intelligence of all these characters, so I'll know who I want to try and persuade to join my brotherhood in the future. We could do that manually, right here with the collect information, for example, and we'd use a master to do it, but that costs me some resources, whereas I believe the neophytes can do that for free. I've had kind of mixed results with this. Sometimes it goes and sometimes it doesn't. I think there might be something that kind of determines whether he can do the mission or not that I'm not aware of. I'm trying to figure that out. I'll learn about that later. But for now, let's just let him run that mission and see if he can do anything with it. All right, what are we supposed to be doing right now? Right, establishing the lodge. Let's just wait a few days. You, in the meantime, I guess we will go ahead and collect information on, let's say, the advisor to the king. See if we can recruit them. This guy has some good influence in lots of institutions, but not the highest office. So the advisor's often a good place to start. And can we recruit you? The answer is yes, a good chance of persuading the advisor to the King of France. And in Denmark, maybe we can intimidate them. We will give that one a shot and see what happens. All right, just a couple more days and we can do this here. Let's try to recruit somebody else in England. I always want to be expanding my offices. Let's go for somebody in the military department. We will try to intimidate the army general and see if we can get him to join. I want more military institution. All right, that's what I want. I want more power, all the power. More people have joined me. Excellent. So it looks like we were able to persuade the advisors to join. All right, so now that we have a lodge, this is great for us. We want to place this anytime we are in a country where we plan on really turtling down and getting as much exploitation as possible, in part to ward off the enemy brotherhoods, which we haven't encountered yet, but we will eventually, I have no doubt. Now, Walter's feeling a little bit concerned because the awareness is a little bit higher, so let's hide signs of activity, spending a bit of power to do so and cover our tracks. And then Walter's own personal secrecy has dropped down to 54. Not very safe. So we're going to have him hide from the world, and this spends some wealth per day to start building up some secrecy until it gets back to maximum. Always good to protect your brothers. You do not want to get detected. Only bad things can happen to you. Let's try to persuade this guy, since persuasion is always so much more preferable. And using these advisors, let's see if we can have them explore the power structure and see if they can detect people, because this seems to work more reliably for some reason. In the meantime, the neophytes, instead, let's go ahead and start finding some local resources, just in case I'm wrong and local resources are needed in order to explore the structure of power. It doesn't say that there is, but again, I think there are some other hidden mechanics that I don't fully understand yet, but I'm working on it. I will figure it out in due time. This game is difficult to master. It really is. But if you're willing to put some time into it, there is so many interchangeable variables, man. So much you can do. Whether you do it successfully, up to you. I'm still figuring that out. I don't pretend to be an expert at this game by any stretch of the imagination, but we'll see. All right, so this is all going just fine over here in England. Still have loads more power that we can exploit at any point. Still hiding from the world. We have to wait until Walter's secrecy has fully resumed. Let's see. These guys are currently not doing anything over here. We do have plenty of wealth, though. Let's recruit some more neophytes, because having additional neophytes just to gather up resources, I find actually is pretty darn helpful. So we'll try for that. Now, notice the advisor here has discovered somebody. He discovered who the ruler is for me, so I learned a little bit about who this ruler is. He'll do that occasionally for the rest of the government. In France, nothing's happened yet, but it will eventually, gosh dang it, it will eventually. All right, I think Walter can have a secrecy of 150 for some reason, because he's extra special. Everyone else only gets up to 100, but Walter, he's a very sneaky dude. Very sneaky dude. Come on, a little bit more from me, a little bit more from me. Let's go ahead and get some information on, let's say, the Chief Treasurer, since we have the time to do that. There's some protests being organized in Denmark, which is a little concerning. Can we recruit the King of Denmark? Maybe. It's not super duper likely, but it can happen. What about the Cardinal? The Cardinal would be a lot easier for us. Let's scare the Cardinal into joining. All right, so Walter is now nice and secret. Perfect. Now, there are other things that we can do here. So I mentioned that there is a rival brotherhood. It wouldn't surprise me if they've actually been organizing a lot of the unrest that we've been seeing in Denmark and the Netherlands and other places. They're probably set up over here in Austria. At least that's where I seem to often find them. They'll look like these little guys on the map, but they'll have red robes, and there are other things we can do with them as far as like some counterintelligence. We can watch them, watch their lodges, try to capture people, kidnap or assassinate. And then once we have captives, we can try to hold interrogations or execute them or try to even convert them to our side. Lots of things we could do, but until we find them, not a whole lot. So right now what the game is telling me we want to do is try to heal the religious schism in Europe, at least in some way. Either promote the schism or heal it. So let's take a look at the religious map mode, and we can see that there are a few different religions. We have Catholic, Protestantism, Eastern Orthodox, and Reformists. Okay, so up here in Brandenburg, for example, is Protestantism fairly well entrenched alongside with England, and we have a couple of different ways that we can approach the situation of the HRE. If we take a look over here, we can see we do have a mission, but two different ways to approach it. We can either protect Brandenburg and the religious diversity within the HRE, or we can help Austria prepare a military aggression plan to subjugate Brandenburg and convert them to faith. Now, I'm going to go for the Protestantism. What that means is we want to establish a lodge in Brandenburg. We've already done that before. We want to infiltrate the army institution to 40%. We can do that easily just by getting more people in the government on my side. And then we want to develop a defense plan. Now, the way the defense plans work, as I said, each office has their own abilities. I know that that is one of the abilities of the Supreme Commander. So we need to go to Brandenburg, establish a proper setup over here, and we have to recruit the Supreme Commander. If the Supreme Commander absolutely refuses to join, then what we may want to do is slander them or assassinate them until they're kicked out of office or dead, and then wait for someone else to take their place who might be just a little bit more amenable. I'm going to go ahead and jump cut forward, though, as we do that, because I do want to make some good progress on this video. Okay, we've managed to build a lodge in Brandenburg, and I'm about to recruit the Army General in addition to the Supreme Commander, which is going to get me above the 40% that I needed. There we go. That's enough infiltration. Okay, to finish up our mission, then, we're going to go to the Supreme Commander, and here's where you can use your official office powers. And there's quite a few of them, especially for the Supreme Commander to start putting together all the levies and regiments and whatnot. But we want to develop a defensive plan, spending some of my resources in order to prepare Brandenburg for a potential invasion from Austria. So being ready for that is going to help protect the Protestants. There we go. All right, so that's all done. Looks like Brother Isaiah's taken a tumble, and now he's giving me his codex. The codex is an extremely large encyclopedia with a lot of different information. Oh my, look at all these tabs. I'll tell you one thing, this game has no shortage of information to give you. Now, learning how to use all that, now that's the trick. If you can figure that out, you're good to go. But otherwise, whoo boy, there's a lot to read if you so desire. This game, like I said, has so much you can do with it. It's practically limitless. Every playthrough is guaranteed to be different to some extent or another. What do we have to do now? Well, we have a couple of different missions that we could do, and I'm not going to do them right now because I think this is actually enough of a point for us to set up for the next video. But we have 3 different missions we could do. We could try to discover enemy brotherhoods using search for signs of enemy activity, and then maybe set up surveillance on them. Who knows, maybe capture them. Rulers over crown, we can try setting up parties in England, political parties, reducing power for parties we do not like, and we can start building up estates and production chains in order to meet the needs of said estates with security of needs. And what I mean by that is, there's like so much more of this game I have yet to show you. Let's take a look here, for example, at society, okay? So there's a lot of different estates all representing here the different demographics of a country, and you can see whether they are supporting the ruling party or a secret party, like a pretender to the throne. Right, and we want to control this as much as we can in our direction. Sometimes that means changing up the political ideology of different groups and so on. But if we click on these individual estates, we can see what's making them happy with the current government and status quo and what is not. For example, estate value. No, I can't click on that. I can't click on these. Never mind. They're not happy with any of these. Whatever. Let's go on the estate, though. Right here, you can see how many people are in the estate, how wealthy they are. In this case, the aristocrats are fabulously wealthy. Whether their needs are being met. And what do I mean by those? Well, I mean their consumption needs, of course. We have food and clothing, consumer goods, delicacies, simple weapons, fine clothes, and art objects. Things that the aristocrats all demand. But other estates demand different kinds of things. And each one of these, for example, food, derives from whether you have food farms, cattle farms, fishing grounds, and hunting grounds, or you can just trade for all your food, and as long as everyone has enough money to buy food, then their needs can be met. And of course, things like cattle farms derive from farmable land, agricultural labor, which is produced by the peasants, and managerial labor, which is produced by the higher echelons of society, and so on. You have so much to balance in an economy in order to have a functional society. You can't focus on just one demographic and think that the machine is going to work. Oh, it's not. It's not going to work. You need to balance all the different estates, make sure you change their political support, change the size of the estate, like the intellectuals, for example, make them wealthier, etc., meet all their individual needs, blah, 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 blah. There's so much to do there. For the economy, of course, we can see all the natural resources that are being produced, and from here we would be able to find different production chains, such as iron ore going to the iron mines, and using labor and managerial labor will become iron itself, and the iron can split up to the foundries, the consumer workshops, forges, armories, creative workshops, so on and so forth. In this case, with the mission, we actually had to try and improve the intellectuals here, increasing their size by 10%, right? Attracting migrants, which means we may want to change up migration law, and for that we may want to go to the Herald, right? And agitate for more immigration of different estates and so on, right? Lots to do. And yes, by the way, I decided to go ahead and infiltrate the entirety of the British Empire, because I can. So yeah, there's a lot more we need to explore, but I'm going to do that in a future video. We're going to go to the New World, taking what I learned today, and we're going to see if we can accomplish some goal setting up or quashing the American Revolution. But now we have set up a power base. We know how to do that. We just got to do it in a different scenario. Thank you all very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed and found this video helpful. If so, then of course I would ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, make sure you subscribe for future content. And again, a big thank you to 1C Entertainment for sponsoring this video. And if you want to learn more, you can find a link in the description down below. My name is Pravus, and I will see you next time in Secret Government.